I never knew marrying into a rich family would teach me the ugliest lesson of my life. How cruel people can be when they think they're better than you. But they forgot one thing. Poor doesn't mean powerless. And the day they mocked my past, I decided to rewrite their future. I married my ex-husband in 2018. He came from money, old money. The kind that never checks a price tag and never wonders where anything comes from. I was the opposite. I grew up poor enough that every small thing mattered. And I learned early that if you don't take care of yourself, no one will. We met at his uncle's restaurant where I worked as a server. He came in to eat with a friend, I served his table, and he asked for my number before he left. He was charming, polite, attentive, or at least that's who he pretended to be. Things moved fast. Dates, gifts, sweet words, the usual fairy tale routine. When he proposed, I didn't hesitate. I had no reason to doubt him then. But the moment we got married, the man I knew disappeared. His patience faded, the compliments became criticisms, and small disagreements turned into lectures about how I didn't understand how his world worked. Eventually, I learned the word for it, narcissist, and he was later officially diagnosed. But at that time I was just confused and hurt, trying to figure out why marriage had flipped a switch inside him. A few months after our wedding, his sister and her boyfriend flew in to visit. I was nervous but excited to meet them. I really wanted to make a good impression, especially since I came from such a different background than his. He always made it clear that his family was upper class, and I didn't want them looking down on me. We picked them up from the airport. He introduced me, and the very first thing his sister said was, "Oh my God, she's totally Jordan's." Her boyfriend laughed. My husband smirked. I asked what it meant and he told me it was a compliment, that it meant I had great style. I thanked her, thinking they were just being friendly. Over the next couple of days they started calling me Jordan's nonstop. First I thought it was cute. Family nickname. Proof that they liked me. But something felt off. Their comments were always slightly edged. The way they'd whisper to each other. The way they scanned my clothes, my purse, my shoes. I brushed it off because I was trying so hard to fit in. I didn't want to seem insecure. Then came the night everything changed. We decided to drink together. Wine, games, music, the usual let's bond as a family evening. They immediately mocked the wine I brought, calling it cheap. I ignored it. I had been around rich people enough to know they sometimes say things without thinking. But as the drinks kept coming, so did the jokes. And the dares. And the laughter. During a round of truth or dare, his sister dared my husband to explain Jordan's. They all laughed in anticipation, like it was some inside joke they'd been holding on to. He turned to me and said, "Jordan's is what we call homeless people who have swag." They exploded in laughter. Real, deep, uncontrollable laughter. They thought it was hilarious. I sat there frozen. I wasn't drunk enough to miss what had just happened. They had been mocking me the entire time. My background. My upbringing. My clothes. Everything. When I confronted him the next day, he pretended he didn't remember saying it. Then he said it was just a joke. And when I pushed harder, he finally admitted, "I may have told them about your past. I just wanted to prepare them. Prepare them. For me." That's when something inside me snapped. I knew I wasn't going to cry again. I wasn't going to beg for respect. I wasn't going to explain my worth to people who thought they were better than me. I was going to get even, and I was going to do it smart. And that's where the revenge begins. After that night, something in me shifted. I stopped trying to impress them. I stopped trying to smooth things over. I stopped shrinking myself to fit into a world that clearly didn't want me in it. For the next few days, I kept my distance. I stayed busy, went on walks, cleaned, cooked, anything to avoid sitting in the same room with them. They didn't seem to notice or care. They went on about their days, acting like nothing had happened, cracking the same snobby jokes, glancing at each other whenever I spoke, whispering like teenagers. My husband tried to pretend everything was fine. If I got quiet, he'd accuse me of being dramatic. If I didn't laugh at their jokes, he'd roll his eyes. It was like they all shared the same belief, that I should be grateful just to exist in their world. But I was done playing that role. A day before his sister and her boyfriend were supposed to leave, they planned a long hike. I told them I wasn't feeling well and would stay home. They didn't question it. They assumed I wanted to avoid physical activity, because in their minds, Anything associated with wealth automatically made them more fit, more cultured, more refined. In reality, I stayed back because I finally had privacy. The time had come to execute my revenge. My husband had spent a small fortune on an extremely expensive bottle of tequila. He had bought it specifically to share with them on their last night, wanting to show off his good taste. He bragged about it for days. They, of course, talked about it like it was a sacred object. Because when rich people find something expensive, they worship it. He left the bottle on the counter that morning untouched, waiting for the perfect evening. And that's when the idea hit me. If they wanted to act like elite experts with superior palates, I'd give them something to truly test. I grabbed my phone and hit record. I set the expensive bottle on the table. Then I pulled out a cheap bottle of Sauza Gold from the cabinet, the kind you grab when you don't care what you're drinking, you just want something strong. I opened both bottles and swapped the liquids, pouring the cheap tequila slowly into the expensive one. Every drop. Then I capped it tightly, wiped the bottle and placed it back exactly where he left it. The real expensive tequila? I poured it into a glass for myself. I sat down in front of the camera and took a long sip. Smooth. Clean. Exactly what expensive tequila is supposed to taste like. Then I started talking. Calmly, honestly, and without holding back. I talked about my childhood. I talked about my family. I talked about how much love we had even when we had nothing. I talked about the pride that comes from surviving real struggles. And then I talked about them, the arrogance, the cruelty, the way they treated people who weren't part of their circle. How money had blinded them into thinking they were superior human beings. It wasn't a rant. It wasn't screaming or cussing. It was controlled, sharp, precise. A knife made of truth. Every sip made the words flow smoother. By the time I finished the video, the expensive tequila was nearly gone, sitting warm in my chest while the cheap stuff waited in that fancy bottle for its new audience. When the hike ended, they came home tired and sweaty, wondering why I was in such a good mood. I didn't have to say anything. I just smiled politely and wished them a great evening. Inside, I was already waiting for the moment their elite taste buds would expose themselves. They thought they had laughed at me. They had no idea their turn was coming. And the final night was about to deliver everything they deserved. Their last night finally arrived, the one they had been bragging about all week. The night they planned to properly enjoy that expensive tequila. The night they thought would prove how cultured and refined they were. I sat on the couch quietly as they prepared everything like it was some kind of ceremony. Fancy glasses. Slow pouring. Soft background music. My husband talking like a professional critic giving a lecture. They lifted their glasses and took the first slow sip. And right on cue it began. His sister closed her eyes dramatically. Her boyfriend inhaled like he was smelling rare perfume. My husband took a long, proud sip and nodded to himself, like he understood something the rest of the world didn't. Then came the comments. Wow, you can really taste the quality. It's so smooth. This is amazing. You can definitely feel the craftsmanship. I sat there watching them enjoy cheap Sauza like it was top-shelf gold. Every compliment felt like a little spark of justice. Every fake review made it better. They kept drinking, swirling, analyzing, completely unaware that the only real expensive tequila in the house was the one I already finished while recording my video. Finally, when their glasses were half empty and their egos were fully satisfied, I stood up. I picked up the TV remote. I made a little video for you guys, I said with a small smile. A thank you for your visit. None of them suspected anything. They leaned back, ready to watch something cute or sentimental. I connected my phone to the TV and hit play. The room went silent. There I was on the screen, calm, composed, sipping the expensive tequila. Talking about my life. Talking about my family. Talking about love, dignity, and real struggle. Then the part where I talked about them. Their faces tightened. Their smiles vanished. The energy shifted instantly. And then came the moment they realized what had actually happened. The part where I swapped the expensive bottle with the cheap one. The camera clearly showed my hands. The bottles. The pouring. The switch. The exact bottle they were drinking from. Silence. The kind of silence that punches the air out of a room. No one spoke. No one moved. They just sat there, stunned, embarrassed, exposed. I calmly started picking up the empty shot glasses on the table. The only sound in the entire room was the clink of glass. When I finished tidying up, I walked to the bedroom without a word. No yelling. No drama. Just quiet, clean revenge. Later that night, my husband stormed into the room in outrage. "My sister is crying because of you," he yelled. "You humiliated us." And I said the only thing that fit. "Yeah. Sucks, doesn't it?" He had no answer. The next morning they left the house early. No goodbyes. No eye contact. No messages after. His sister refused to see us again, even when we visited Europe later. That was the beginning of the end of our marriage. He never recovered from the fact that I beat him at his own game. He couldn't handle that the girl he mocked for being less than them was the one who outsmarted all of them without raising her voice once. And today, I'm divorced, free, happy, and proud of myself for walking away from people who mistook money for value. If they learned anything that night, it was this: never underestimate the girl you tried to embarrass. She just might be the one who teaches you a lesson you'll never forget. And that's how I turned their arrogance into my little victory. If you loved this story, make sure to hit that subscribe button for more real-life revenge tales and stories you won't believe actually happened.